What's up, everybody? Welcome to another week of Fish's Friday Rants by way of Basketball Society, stretching the floor with perspective. I'm obviously not Fish. The great Alex Fischbein is on vacation, enjoying himself down there with the Rastafarians in Jamaica. My name's Martin Soaries. I'm filling in for Fish this week for Friday Rants. Going to talk about Dwight Howard, the Milwaukee Bucks, and Gilbert Arenas. First up with Dwight. You had the report come out this week from SheridanHoops.com that Dwight Howard is tired of playing second fiddle to James Harden. The Rockets aren't off to the best start this season. They've been struggling to find their way. So the assumption is that Dwight is kind of fed up with losing, but the report from Sheridan Hoops is specifically that he's not too much of a fan of playing second fiddle to James Harden, which is really what he went to Houston to do, to create that kind of 1-2 punch. Now, Dwight has since refuted that report after the Rockets lost to Sacramento on Tuesday night. He did an interview with USA Today and backed out of any assumptions or reports that he is unhappy in Houston and that he's unwilling to make it work. So he came back and said all the right things that players typically say when they're accused of saying something or feeling a certain way. So my thing is with Dwight, I mean, if just reacting to the initial report, if Dwight, who is 30 years old now, were to have the mentality that he wanted to be the guy again, like kind of like he was in Orlando, at this point, that doesn't really seem possible. So I tend to think that Dwight is pretty smart in this sense. If what he's saying is true, that he's not looking to leave and try and become the primary player on a team right now. I believe him in that sense, because if he has any common sense, then he would know that any team right now where he's the best player isn't going too far. It's weird because Dwight used to be, I mean, just 3, 4, 5 years ago, we were considering Dwight the best, most dominant center in the league today. And he's taken such a regression now. He really hasn't been exactly the same since his back issues, knee issues. You look at the role he's playing in Houston now, and he's not just a second fiddle. He's actually more of just another guy out there. I mean, you look at the playoff series last season against Portland, where Dwight was really dominant and putting up those 20-20 numbers and really having that dominating impact on the game. And you still think that he can do that. But James Harden is the pulse of the Rockets. They don't play through Dwight Howard. They don't go as Dwight Howard goes. They rely on him to do the little things: defend, protect the paint, block shots, rebound. And so his role is kind of minimized in that sense. But for me, who are we to say that that's not a good thing for Dwight right now? Maybe it's the best thing for him to maximize the role that he's in as the second fiddle or as just another role player, set hard screens, roll hard to the basket, and just doing those little things will help the Rockets get back to where they were last season, which was in a position to come out of the Western Conference. So I think the Rockets are going to be fine. And when I say fine, I say they'll be right in that mix where they should be, in the top 8 in the West when it's all said and done. A lot of that does have to do with Dwight Howard just being a presence. But, hey, look, me personally as a guard, I would love to play with Dwight. And this is coming from a Laker fan. So all you Laker fans and Kobe fans who just love to be anti-Dwight and take shots at Dwight and talk about how soft he is and whatever, most of that's probably true. I'm not a huge fan of his post moves. But, look, as a guard myself, it's invaluable to have someone of Dwight's stature with those big shoulders. I mean, who wouldn't want Dwight setting screens for you all day? I mean, I would make a killing if Dwight was setting me screens, ball screens, off-ball screens, pin downs. I mean, I'd have a field day if someone like that setting me screens. So me personally, I'm not going to say like, oh, I wouldn't want to play with Dwight, even though you've got this whole new batch of NBA centers now who are taking up the mantle: DeMarcus Cousins, Andre Drummond, guys that are really making their name for themselves now at the position and really upping Dwight. But look, don't be too hard on Dwight. I think he's still kind of adapting to the fact that he isn't the main guy. So, and you know, with these reports, A lot of times they're just wrong, and especially when a player comes out and says, listen, I never said that. That's not how I feel. This is just speculation. These are just rumors just getting circulated around. But usually every story has some form of truth to it. And if I were to just assume, I would say that there is some part of Dwight that is still just naturally adjusting to not being the Dwight Howard of old. And the team does not focus around him. It doesn't go as he goes. They go as James Harden goes. So maybe he's just looking to challenge himself to challenge his teammates more. And the Rockets just have a lot of work to do in general. But take it easy on Dwight. Let him kind of come into his own and realize what he has to do for his team. Again, he's only 30 years old. In the near future, you've got now all these assumptions and possibilities come up, talking about a trade with Miami possibly. For me, right now, I say lay off on Dwight. Let him be. Let him do what he's trying to do, figure himself out, and we'll see what happens with the rest. Next up, we got the Milwaukee Bucks. On Tuesday night, the Bucks got blown out by the Los Angeles Lakers. And right now, that's just not a good thing for your team to get blown out by the Lakers right now. TMZ came out with a report along with a video showing 3 Bucks players at the strip club on Monday night, the night before they got blown out by the Lakers. So when you consider that, they seem to be related. Strip club on Monday night, blown out by the Lakers on Tuesday night. And don't forget, the Bucks gave the Golden State Warriors their first loss the Saturday prior. I don't think any of their names or anything like any specific information was released, but TMZ did release. There was a video of them, and it showed them leaving the strip club at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not really sure what I'm ranting about yet. I'm not sure what to be concerned about yet. The fact that 3 grown men in the NBA were at the strip club the night before a game. Okay, there's some issues with that. I think this would be a bigger story if this was a college team, if these were college players at the strip club the night before a game and then they get blown out the night after. I think that's a much bigger story because it's a sense of maturity and responsibility. But again, these are grown men in the NBA. Plenty of times, I'm sure there are players that are at the strip club the night before games. And so I don't know if I'm mad that they got caught or if I'm more mad that they're trying to make this a big story. Again, they left the club at 2 a.m., so it's not like they were out all night. There wasn't any evidence of them drinking excessively or stumbling out the club or making some bad decisions. Just the fact that they were at the strip club and they left at 2 a.m. Now, I don't consider 2 a.m. to be a fatally late time for especially a grown man, an NBA player, to be coming in from the strip club. Now, 4, 5, 6 a.m., that's probably where some more interesting, controversial stuff might be happening. But 2 a.m., now again, the fact that they got blown out by the Lakers the next night, I think makes it kind of more of a story. And Jason Kidd, the Bucks head coach, was obviously not too happy hearing about the fact that a few of his players were at the strip club the night before. But what is there to really be upset about? Is this really a story? I mean, again, I think this would just be a bigger story if these were college kids at a strip club the night before a game and got blown out. But these are NBA players. Plenty of NBA guys, I'm sure, go out to the club, the strip club, wherever, the night before a game, the day of a game, maybe. It's just that they usually don't get caught. But you've got TMZ out here getting people caught. More power to the Bucks because they've got to play Golden State again tonight in Golden State. So that should really be more of the focus in Milwaukee as opposed to going out to the strip club in LA, coming back at 2 in the morning. Lastly, I want to talk about Gilbert Arenas, Gilly, Agent Zero. So Arenas went on Instagram this week, put up a video and a long caption like he usually does. If you follow Gilly on Instagram, you've witnessed his ignorance. So Arenas went on Instagram, put up a video of 2 girls playing basketball one-on-one in basically nothing. Just some lingerie, kind of a tank top, short shorts. 2 attractive looking girls. They even look like swimsuit models or something like that, just playing basketball. So Gilly puts up this long caption talking about how this is how women's basketball should be played, how the WNBA and the women's game would benefit a lot more from just ratings and exposure and excitement if women's players were dressed like this, in just sexier clothes and out there playing basketball like that, as opposed to, and I'm paraphrasing Gilly's comments here, but he basically said, don't try and mimic the men's game because you're not men. You should be kind of exposing yourself in a different way that makes it more appealing for guys to watch. Let me say that, first of all, Arenas has a point. Gilly really, really has a point here, and I'm not here to say that he's wrong in his claim. However, if you have any semblance of respect for the game of basketball, I'm obviously not a woman, so I can't speak from a woman's perspective. But I can talk from the perspective of someone who just has an immense level of respect for the game. And I'll also say this is pretty sensitive for me personally because I have a connection to women's basketball. My sister, Cappy Pondexter, plays in the WNBA, two-time champion with the Phoenix Mercury, plays for the Chicago Sky now, voted one of the 15 best players of all time. I grew up watching her at Rutgers University. My other sister, Tasha Pointer, also watched her play at Rutgers. She led Rutgers to their first ever Final Four. She's now the assistant women's coach at St. John's University. So I just have a natural respect for and sensitivity for the women's game and an appreciation for it. So for me personally, I'll say, I guess I'm a little biased on this subject. I do have some personal stake on this. But again, if you have any kind of common sense, any kind of respect for the game, then you understand why what Gilly said is so purely idiotic. It's about the game, and that's what I'm talking about here. That's my perspective, is that it's about the game. And I say to people all the time, if women's basketball may not be that exciting, you turn it on, it's not completely high scoring, there aren't dunks. Well, now you've got dunks. There's no excuse for that now. You've got Brittany Griner running around dunking on people. But it's naturally not as exciting as the men's game, but it's still basketball. The ball's a little bit smaller. The 3-point line is a little bit shorter. Okay, so the metrics are a little bit different, but it's the same game. So if you really, a lot of people out here say they're really basketball heads. I'm a basketball junkie. I love basketball, blah, blah, blah. If you really love the game and appreciate the game, you can watch a women's game just like you would watch a men's game. If you have that level of respect for the game of basketball, you shouldn't need women out there looking with short shorts, wearing certain attire to make you feel like it's more appealing because they look better. That's not what it's about. And honestly, I'm disappointed in someone like Gilly. Now, if you know anything about Gilly, if you follow him on Instagram, if you see just the kind of comments he makes, you know he doesn't care. He doesn't have a filter. He clearly doesn't want to be taken seriously when you talk about possibly being in a position for a team, a front office position or a coaching position or something like that. After saying this, after these comments, he would never be taken seriously in that regard. And I'll also say I think it was stupid for the WNBA to even honor him with a response. You should have just let that be. That doesn't even warrant an actual response. Although I do like that Elena Deladon, Angel McCautry have come out and kind of responded to him, because it, for them, it's personal, because they're just playing the game. They work just like men work to work on their craft, to work on their game. And you're saying that for them to be more interesting, they have to be more sexy. And basketball has nothing to do with being sexy. So, I mean, it really just boils down to the whole baseline level of sexism. And again, I'm not talking as a woman. I'm not, I mean, I feel like a feminist talking on this subject right now. But look, focus on the game and what can make the actual game of women's basketball more appealing and better for audiences, as opposed to just denigrating it and boxing it into this, well, they don't look good enough, they're not sexy enough, like volleyball players, like gymnasts, and like these other sports where it's more appealing for male audiences. It's about the game. That's all it's ever about. And frankly, I'm disappointed that someone like Gilly, who had such a dynamic career, who is recognized by us basketball heads and historians as one of the most unstoppable guards in history, for his kind of basketball legacy to now be tarnished after his career for saying comments like this, for not understanding the disrespect and the insensitivity, it bothers me. It concerns me really that someone who has been that close to the game at the professional level has these kinds of opinions. Someone who's been that close to the game professionally has that much disrespect for the game to come out and say something like that. It just hits me personally. And so I'll just end this Friday rant by saying, look, it's about the game. It's always going to be about the game and nothing else. I'm Martin Soaries filling in for Alex Fischbein. This is another episode of Fish's Friday Rants from Basketball Society, stretching the floor with perspective. Peace.